At the moment, under the Family Code of the Philippines, we have only relative divorce with respect to legal separation, wherein the spouses are supposed to be separated from bed and board, but the marriage ties are not severed. So they don't have the capacity to remarry. But in the case of absolute divorce compared to a relative divorce, the marriage ties are severed, the union is dissolved, and the spouses are capacitated to remarry. And that is one basic distinction between relative divorce and absolute divorce.
Okay. I asked for because obviously I asked. Sorry, Luchi, excuse me lang. But I asked precisely because obviously one of the biggest things, one of the biggest factors in considering a divorce bill has always been the church, the Catholic Church, and they're wanting to preserve and they're feeling that it might threaten the sanctity of family and values in the Philippines. And kanina, we were talking about the practicalities of the legislative process. And you were saying, next year pa naman yung election process and so on. But beyond time constraints and beyond legislative process constraints, there is the ever-lingering question of what positioning on divorce might mean for anybody looking for a position in 2022. So just to add to Ed's question, how confident are you that a vote on this and support for this will be insulated from, let's put it very bluntly, people's considerations of how the Catholic Church might perceive this?
Well, that is a question which we really appreciate. But we would like to underscore that the opposition of the Catholic hierarchy with respect to the divorce law bill is much, much less than its objection to the reproductive health bill. There is a reason for this, because the Catholic Church has its own canonical tribunal which dissolves marriages. So there is a counterpart version in the Catholic Church of a secular divorce. Number two, 100% of the Catholic countries in the world have their own divorce, absolute divorce laws. So that, in a sense, would be telling us that the Philippines should not be left alone. And then also, that would also say that there can be no unanimity and error by the Catholic countries and other countries of having or sustaining an absolute divorce law. And lastly, even the Pope has looked so kindly on divorced people or remarried people, so much so that now they could, it's encouraged that they should be given the Holy Eucharist.
Well, but there is one provision in this bill that I'm sure will raise the hackles of the conservatives, no? In particular, the irreconcilable differences now being a valid ground. And as you very well know, I mean, I think there are, way less objections against a man and a woman staying together, especially if there's abuse in the relationship. No? But irreconcilable differences, that's but by the conservatives' estimations, that's pretty shallow as a ground. However, you do say that there are certain valid or excusable, irreconcilable differences that are, I guess, acceptable. What would those be?
Well, First, I would like to underscore that this bill does not favor what we call a drive-through divorce. There is no proceedings which would honor a no contest petition or a no fault petition. And there is no adoption of what is done in Latin America on notarial divorce, or what is done in Portugal with respect to email divorce. In our case, there should be an actual, real court proceedings where the evidence is adduced and adjudged by the court. So, with respect to irreconcilable marital differences, we have a very strict definition under the bill, and I would like to read the definition.
Yes,
Irreconcilable differences refer to the substantial incompatibility of the spouses due to their intransigence or fault by holding on to divergent and divisive behavior, resulting to the total breakdown of their marriage, which could not be repaired despite earnest efforts to reconcile. In other words, there are standards by which the court will adjudge whether, in fact, there will be irreconcilable differences. And one would be the intransigent behavior. Number two, that it has resulted to the breakdown of the marriage and that there is no room for reconciliation.
Pero sir, yung substantial in itself, substantial differences, that would be pretty subjective, and that leaves a lot of leeway, I suppose, for whoever is the judge to make a decision on whether or not something is substantial.
That because there are standards provided for under the law, then the court will be properly guided on what evidence to accept or reject and what would be the basis of its decision following the standards provided for by the bill.
Congressman, with all the urgent issues being faced by the country, the only way I can see this passing, hurdling Congress is if it's given the priority that it needs by the President himself. Do you think President Duterte will certify this bill as urgent? Kasi he has certified several other bills, mostly for dealing with the pandemic, but this is not included in his priority agenda. Do you think it will get support from Malacanang?
It would be hard to divine the intention or decision of the president with respect to this measure. But as far as we know, there are no strong arguments being hoisted by Malacanang against this measure. And most probably at the proper time, when this bill is now in the plenary, the president may even consider having this measure approved. Because we all know that the president is very consistent in his support of the reproductive health measure. That is on record. And he has issued two executive orders promoting reproductive health. Since this bill on absolute divorce is a sequel to the reproductive health bill, and the central figure here would be the women, then most probably the president can consider certifying this as an urgent measure. Considering also that the Congress has already acted on a number of measures relative to the pandemic.
Congressman, do you think, I mean, trying to look at this on the other side, kanina, we were considering na, naku, kung politiko ka at suporto ka dito, baka magalit sa iyo ang Catholic Church. On the other hand, when we look at the voters and we look at the social issues that impelled you to file this and to support this, do you think this is an issue that voters will appreciate? Do you think this is a matter that voters will remember and appreciate either way that their representatives vote or consider this?
If this bill does not become a law before the election, definitely this will be a very important issue. As a matter of fact, uh, we have we received feedbacks that the news accounts with respect to the approval of the uh, bill on the absolute divorce has been receiving very favorable responses from the public. And that is again on record. We have the evidence to, to that effect. And also because we feel that uh, there will be a very strong support from the women's group, from the progressive sectors with respect to the advocacy on the enactment of absolute divorce measure.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
well, kung pwede lang maiba.
Go ahead
Sorry,
po.
iba ko ng konti topic ha. Well, in around 6 weeks siguro, thereabouts, filing na ng certificates of candidacy eh. I know na maraming ayaw pa magdeklara kung sila tatakbo o hindi. But I'm wondering where the Liberal Party right now is with regard to what the plans of VP Robredo are.
Well, as far as we are concerned, we would like the vice president to run for president, and so many would support her bid. But it all depends on whether the vice president would make that final declaration that she's going to bid for the presidency. We hope she does, and we're ready to support her.
Pero sir, wala pa pong indications kasi it's a month and a week na lang siguro before the filings of the COCs. And I suppose the party should be preparing already on who to support.
Well, definitely, the party will support Lenny if she finally decides to file her candidacy for the presidency. That is not a question.
Are you still optimistic that there will be a common opposition candidate, a unified opposition candidate?
Well, if we have to be practical about it, then the only way to win the presidency and to stop the Duterte hegemony is to have a united opposition. Otherwise, it would be very difficult considering the machinery of the administration. And I hope that those in the opposition and those who are dauntlessly against the continuation of the Duterte administration would really get together and be unified in putting up a single candidate against the anointed aspirant by the Duterte administration or by the president.
Okay. Congressman Edsel Lagman, maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
Thank
Congressman.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ingat po.
Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
We'll need to take a break. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back. Welcome back, the Chiefs here on One News. Now joining us, Department of Science and Technology Secretary Fortunato de la Peña. Good evening, Secretary de la Peña.
Nasa bahay na.
Magandang gabi, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening po.
Magandang gabi po.
You showed Ed.
DOST Secretary nga naman.
Secretary, kanina po, binalita ako sa...
Napaka-loyal ko sa UP. Tignan mo, may oblation pa ako sa likod.
Oo nga, sir. Eh.
Ako rin, sir. Meron lang
Pati si
inflation ako
Ed,
sa likod eh.
Secretary, good evening po. Kanina po, binalita sa big story, 8 companies expressed interest to manufacture vaccines in the Philippines. I just realized, I wasn't sure about the context. When you say 8 companies want to manufacture in the Philippines, is that 8 companies who are producing abroad want to produce here, or 8 companies here in the Philippines saying we're willing to take in anybody who wants to manufacture here?
I checked on the 8. There are only 7 in our list. I don't know whether there is anybody who backed out, but there are 7 local companies who would like to manufacture it here. And they have identified their partners from abroad, except one who is still searching for a partner.
Okay, but we understand may mga NDA pa dito, but potentially how many countries from abroad are we talking about here? How many potential partners from abroad?
I think there are also 7 potential partners from abroad. Okay, so there are 2 which are using the inactivated virus, which is both of them have WHO emergency use approval, and then there are 2 which are using the so-called protein subunit adjuvanted, which are still in phase 2 trials, meaning to say not yet no authority to use. And then there is one using mRNA, which is already on phase 3. Alam ko yung Russia, mRNA yun eh. And then they have also one that is using the so-called viral-like particles, okay? Which is still in phase 1, phase 2. So yun talagang vaccine developer partners na meron ng authorization, dalawa, both using inactivated technology.
Sir, hindi pwedeng pangalanan kung ano mga bakuna yan.
Nung ibigay sa akin A, B, C, D, E, F, G na rin eh.
Okay. So hindi pa vaccine specific yung mga...
Company A up to Company G and Vaccine A up to Vaccine F. Okay, kasi yung isa nga, hindi pa nila sure kung sino ang gusto nilang partner. So when I asked from my own vaccine evaluation and selection task group, ito lang binigay nila sa akin. So kasama yata ako sa non-disclosure.
Sir, how advanced are the discussions with these companies? Kasi diba? Kasi I understand na baka 2022 pa, that's next year, if ever, yung beginning ng fill and finish operations. In other words, mag-i-import tayo tapos dito magtatapos at magpa-packaging.
Yeah. I think I have mentioned before that we are talking here of 3 periods, yung short term, yung medium term, at saka yung long term. When we talk of the short term, this is the period 2022 to 2023 na talagang fill and finish lang. And then beyond that, up to 2025, ito yung pwede nang gawin dito lahat from the beginning ng raw material up to the finished product, pero foreign technology pa rin. Ano? Ngayon, yung long term, which could be up to 2030, ito na yung hopefully ay nakadevelop na rin tayo ng sarili nating vaccines. No? And by the way, one of the local companies is looking, one of the 7 that I have on my list, is looking at the long-term production of vaccines from the original raw material up to the finished product, hindi lang fill and finish. And then there is also one which is looking at the possibility of producing non-COVID vaccines for our national immunization program. At the moment, naghati-hati kami ng trabaho. So DOST is still doing the vaccine evaluation and selection, while DTI now is in charge of assisting the companies who would like to manufacture here. So yun na nga ang ibinigay na time period. Definitely not 2021.
Yung local production will be linked to the creation of the Virology Institute. Ganun ba yun?
Yung sinasabi kong our own technology,
it
it is hints on the approval of the Virology Institute.
So ano na po yung progress ng proposal na yan? Kasi mukhang tuloy-tuloy na eh. Bigyan na siya ng budget. Kailan na siya mag-umpisa?
Well,
Groundbreaking, for example.
tapos na kami sa House of Representatives. Passed na on third reading. So it is the lobbying that we have to do now is in the Senate. Kasi
Pero mukhang sigurado naman sa Senate din eh. So how soon? Kung papasa yan, how soon can you start on it?
yung approval.
Yeah, no, kayo. Kailan mauumpisahan siya? Sigurado namang papasa yan eh, kasi priority din ni Presidente.
Kahit hindi pa approve yung batas, ay nag-umpisa na kaming maggawa ng 8 research projects on virology out of our own Pharmaceutical Development Center sa DOST. Yung approval, well, of course, we hope that this thing will be approved before the end of the year. And yun nga lang, merong kailangan pang kumbinsihin sa Senate. Kasi some are raising the issue, bakit hindi na lang RITM?
Okay.
Kasi bagong agency pa. Pero sir, are we limiting ourselves to COVID vaccines? Or are these companies going to manufacture vaccines for other diseases?
Yeah. It really depends on them what they want to manufacture here. No? So, gaya nga na nasabi ko, even our own Virology Institute is not limited to vaccines, and it's not limited to vaccines for virus-related diseases. Kasi may mga diseases naman na iba naman ang carrier, hindi naman virus, di ba? May mga bacteria at iba pa. Pero kailangan din ng vaccines doon. At the same time, vaccines are needed for animals that are being attacked by these viruses. And also some of our important crops like baka, coconut, ina-attack din yan ng virus. So,
Di ba meron na nga tayo, sir, yung sa swine?
Yes,
Di ba meron ng bakuna for animals?
Dinevelop na ng ating scientists sa Central Luzon University. Hindi ko alam kung yung technology ay original o meron lang siyang inadapt na technology.
Akala ko ano yun. Akala ko atin na yun, yung innovation na yun.
Pero at least it is already the beginnings of parang supplying ourselves with the
Right. Yeah. Let's go.
Sir, I'll go back to dun sa fill and finish operations that we hope to start by next year. I'm wondering lang, and I suppose a lot of people are wondering, what could, if there are any, what could be the hold up in starting the fill and finish operations? Considering that I don't know how complicated it is, diba? Pero you bring in, I suppose, in bulk and then you repackage the vaccines. May problems ba sa administration, administrative problems, for example, red tape or things that have to be smoothed out?
In-anticipate na nga yan, kaya yung ating ARTA, the Anti-Red Tape Authority, convened the different agencies involved, the DOST, the DTI, the DOH, and FDA para ma-facilitate yung processes. And of course, most of the permits naman kasi is coming from FDA. Kaya ang FDA maraming i-contribute na sabihin na nating improvement in the process of getting the permits. So that about 2 months ago, almost 2 months ago, nagpirmahan na kami on the procedure that will be followed. Base nga dito sa agreement na kailangang bawasan yung time for getting the permits. And ang isang importante naman dito ay kailangan din nating magkaroon din tayo ng guidance to anong business model ang ating i-recommend for this local manufacturing. And it is good that we were able to get the assistance of ADB assistance ito, yung talagang tulong lang, technical assistance, among their experts on the kind of business model that is recommended. So, for example, definitely, and we discussed this, kami din naman ang nag-suggest. Ako, sabi ko, wag tayong kukuha ng local manufacturer na wala man lang kahit anong background sa manufacturing of biologicals. Dapat meron kahit paano may background sa biologicals at saka dapat sila ay magko-comply sa good manufacturing practices at the same time yung talagang strong quality assurance and quality control processes. And then dito kailangan yung mga sterile na filling line, ano? Kaya yan isa sa mga titingnan. FDA naman ang mag-i-inspection yan at
Quality control. Yeah.
for the so-called vaccines that are based on the viral vector technology, kailangan nila ng extra containment at saka hindi syringes ang kailangan i-produce in this particular case, but more of the vials that we need.
Okay, Secretary, assuming that everybody that wants to do this is capable, has the expertise, is credible, and so on, is this field, completely a wide open market? Is it completely open, or when we talk about, for example, at this point, the 8 who have expressed interest, is there a limit to the number of players that can enter this field?
Doon sa mga diskusyon, siyempre, it was brought up na hindi naman po pwedeng napakarami nila dahil yung market masyadong mahahati-hati. In fact, marami pa rin tayong, yung mag-i-import, hindi mo pa rin mababawalan yun, depende sa presyo. So, yun ang isang pinag-iisipan kung paano magkakaroon ng assurance tayo na kahit na nga itong gobyerno natin, yun ang bibilin. Kasi alam mo naman, ang ating procurement system, kailangan yung pinakamura ang bibilin. If it turns out na mas mura yung imported, paano na yung local manufacturer? So, yun ang sa mga issue na tinatakel. Of course, we have the hopes na kung dito gagawin, local manufacturer mas mura. Kasi maraming lower cost sa atin kaysa sa abroad. So, yan ay maganda yung tanong na yon kasi hindi naman siguro advisable na halimbawa kung 7 ito, 7 yung gagawa ng mga local vaccines. Di bali sana kung iba-ibang vaccines ang kanilang gagawin. Pero kung halimbawa ang COVID-19 lang, baka naman hindi advisable na napakarami na gagawa. Kahit na yung PNP.
So yung 8 na yon, may element din sila ng unahan. I mean, is that fair to say na yung 8 na yon, there's also an element of unahan?
Oo, siyempre naman. Sa negosyo naman talaga, hindi ba unahan?
Okay.
Secretary, merong mga nag-aalala, yung sa Virology Institute, they're warning, well, hindi pa naman established na nangyari sa Wuhan, no? Pero nag-aalala sila na baka daw makatakas din sa institute yung mga deadly pathogens at hindi natin makontrol. Is that a valid fear in our country?
It's a real concern. Kaya nga ang biosafety laboratory dyan na gagamitin, hindi lang yung ating ginagamit ngayon na level 1 or level 2. Tayo nga nag-require ng level 2 dahil mula nitong magkaroon tayo ng mga analysis na ginagawa dyan sa mga variants na yan at saka yung iba pang genome sequencing. Pero dito, minimum of safety level 3 ang kailangan. Wala pa tayong ganon dito sa Pilipinas. And kaya din, gusto natin doon sa isang area na medyo dito sa
kabiasnan.
Kaya ito ang ibinibigay sa atin yung isang area sa Clark Green City na malaking area, malaki 5 hectares for just one facility. Malaki siyempre yung area and actually na yun hindi na siya Angeles City, Capas na yun, yung Green City. So binigyan tayo at inilagay sa batas yun na doon ilalagay. At mabuti naman ng BCDA ay madali nating nakumbinse na ibibigay nila ng libre. Of course, when you say libre, hindi naman mapapasa atin yung property kasi ang Clark hindi naman pwede ipagbili. Alam ko yan ay mga usufruct lang and long-term leases. So, parati pa rin sa gobyerno yung property. sa Clark. And yun, kaya napakahalaga nung sinabi mo yung biosafety level ng ating laboratories. Kahit nga ngayon, yung ating umpisahang mga experiments dito sa DOST ay kasama na rin yan sa aming preparasyon, yung biosafety. Kasi virus yan, ano? Pag nakawala yan, napakahirap.
Yeah. Pero what kind of support are you giving to Filipinos who are actually attempting to come up with a vaccine? Halimbawa, si Father Nick Austriaco, meron siya nitong yeast-based na vaccine that they're trying to develop. And he was, last we talked to him, he was complaining about yung white mice na kailangan niya for us, natetenga nga raw, so hindi sila makausad-usad. But I just wonder, are we giving enough support to people like them?
Oo, but he has to be affiliated with an institution. Kaya ang tingin ko, kung yan ay halimbawa ay gagawin niya within the UST, shall we say, system, ang UST is getting a lot of grants for research from us. Kung yun ay within that institution, ay sanay na kaming mag-deal sa ating mga universities who are making proposals. Hindi ko lang alam kung yung ganyang ginagawa, baka naman sa abroad niya ginagawa yung mga eksperimento. I'm not sure.
Dito raw, sir. Dito.
Dito. Kasi nag-usap naman kami, binigyan namin siya ng award sa National Academy of Science and Technology. Wala naman siyang particular na hiningi sa akin or hiniling. Pero kung ano man yun at kaya namin, bakit hindi?
What about, sir, yung mga, may iba naman, no? Yung vaccines nga ngayon, yung mix and match. Are you in any way involved in the study of whether these vaccines can be safely mixed and matched? Lalo na ngayon, may usapin na ng mga nagbo-booster kahit na wala pang 6 na buwan or is that safe? Oo.
Project namin yon, yung mixed match. And the good news is that yung methodology ng trials ay na-approve na ng mga nakakaalam sa pag-approve ng yung mga technical committees. And the other good news is in-approve na rin ng ating Joint Ethics Research Committee. So yan ay ang last stage na niyan, baka nga may approval na rin ng FDA pero hindi ko pa na-check. Kasi pagka nakaraan ka na dun sa dalawang stages na yon, yun na lang FDA step ang kailangan mong makuha para dun sa trials. Pero ito kasi hindi naman sila gagamit ng bagong vaccine baka hindi na ito dadaan sa FDA kung hindi ito ay aaralin lang nila kung ano ang magiging epekto kung pag-mixin mo yung dalawang vaccine. Meron ditong case, one category ay meron ka ng nabakunahan ng isang dose, halimbawa Sinovac, and ang susunod mong dose ay iba na. O kaya naman...
meron po kaming case niyan dito sa The Chiefs.
Oo. Ngayon,
magsalita ka.
Yung isang category naman, yung tapos ka na doon sa 2 dose na magkabuka at bibigyan ka ng booster. Okay? Meron pang isang pangatlong case, and yan tigi 1,000 participants ang kailangan. So ngayon, yun ay
dami pala
ng trial group. At yan ngayon ang I think nangangalahati na rin yata sila in terms of recruitment kasi may mga identified ng sites kung saan sila kukuha ng mga participants. So anytime ito ay magte-take off na, pero since we are talking of 3,000 participants, hindi siya mabilis. At saka inaaral mo ang epekto kaya hindi naman niya kamukha ng pagkabakuna titingnan mo lang kung hinimatay o tumaas ang presyon. Ito yung matagal na epekto kaya mahaba ang observation period.
Secretary, I'll just digress a bit. Meron na daw breakthrough cure for dengue. Can you tell us more about it? Can you tell us more about it?
Una muna, nagkaroon tayo ng mga pag-aaral na ginagamit ang tawa-tawa as a health supplement kasi nga nakakataas ng ano tawag doon, platelet count. Usually sa dengue, hindi ba? Ang critical dyan pagka bumagsak yung platelet count. So, in-approve naman siya as health supplement. But there was a real R&D that was done by another group, yung Pharmalytics Corporation, mga researchers din ito, na I think they are based in the LaSalle Institute of Health Sciences. And hindi lang isang raw material na plant ang kanilang ginamit, tatlo ang kanilang natural products or species na ginamit for this. And nakatapos na sila sa animal trials, tapos na sila sa phase 1. So ngayon ay nandun na sila sa phase 2 going to phase 3. At pag yan ay pumasa dyan sa phases na yan, ay we can claim, I hope walang mauna, na yan ang kauna-unahang gamot sa dengue.
Wow. Kailan po natin nasa? What's the timeline? What's the most optimistic timeline for that?
Siguro baka 2022 rin.
Mabilis-bilis, ha?
So that,
Kasi,
Can you
Yeah.
identify kung ano yung iba pang halaman na ginamit? Apart from tawa-tawa?
isa pa rin yun sa, kahit ako ayaw nila sabihin kung ano.
Top secret talaga.
Hindi, meron kasi hindi pa sila nakakapile ng intellectual property application.
Wow,
chocolate ba po yun? Chocolate? Hindi ba chocolate yun?
Hindi ko alam.
Hindi chocolate.
Cure yan, ha? Cure, ha? Hindi yan vaccine, ha?
Hindi ito vaccine.
But that will be, but if that all works out,
Ito tableta. Hindi ito.
apa. But
Yes.
if this all works out, para lang po malinaw, I mean, apart from, of course, being very excited about something to fight dengue, this will be a Philippine patent. I mean, this will be something that will really be a contribution from the Philippines.
Definitely.
The first cure in the world, ha?
Yun ang sabi nila. Of course, kailangan lumabas sila ahead of time.
Kaya
So hindi na yan emergency use. Meron niyang matagalang ano. Ganun ba yun, sir?
Oh, ano na yan, produkto na kasi yan na ano, hindi
Yeah.
naman matagalan na yan. Kaya dadaan ka sa proseso ng FDA at
Yeah.
pag nakaraos ka na doon, pwede na talaga.
may government participation ba in the R&D?
Oo, pinondohan namin.
Okay.
Okay.
Mga magkano kaya?
Hindi ko na matandaan ngayon. No? Pero ano naman, reasonable. If I'm not mistaken, nandun lang sa range ng mga 10 million. Ganun.
Bad. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Secretary Fortunato de la Peña of the Department of Science and Technology. Secretary, maraming salamat po.
Hindi, ako naman ang
Thank you, sir.
Ako naman ang hihiling sa inyo kasi sa September 7, i-announce namin yung aming Big 21 for 2021. Ito yung 21 sabihin nating achievements namin that has really a large impact. Hindi lang ito sa COVID-19. It covers the whole area of science and technology.
Okay.
So if there is a chance, even before September 7, we can discuss about our Big 21 for 2021. Thank
Okay,
you.
si Joby Francisco po has taken note of that. Nakakalendaryo na po yan. We will see you then. We will see you.
Salamat.
Okay, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ito, reminder din po. Manny Pacquiao faces off against Yordenis Ugas this Sunday, August 22, and you can catch it here live on Signal TV.
Stay home and stay tuned this Sunday on the much-awaited bout of the Philippines Fighting Pride, Manny Pacquiao and Cuban Olympic boxer Yordenis Ugas. You can catch their fight for the World Welterweight title on Signal Pay-Per-View for only 750 pesos. Live, commercial-free, and in HD. For postpaid subscribers, go to my.signal.tv and order online. For Signal prepaid and satellite subscribers, visit your nearest smart load retailer and load PPV 750. Don't miss this fight, Pacquiao vs. Ugas on Signal Pay-Per-View for 750 pesos. Order now.
That's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.